So first of all, Baruch to everyone online and in person. This is the fourth installment of this class, and every time there's new surprises. And thank you to Bracha for really for reaching out and really sharing the story about your son, and with all the interviews, it really was not only very nice to learn about your son, but also very much relevant to the class that I had already given a few times. And it was very surreal listening to people talk and how relevant it was to the actual topic of this class. So this class is the Eloi Nishmas Dovid Avraham, so Ben Baruch, Shelah, sheyichyeh, and also for Shlema, for Bracha Pasya Bas Bela, and that's Bracha is David's mother. So I'm going to jump into the topic, and we'll talk a little bit about what I've learned from David, and we're going to talk more at the end, and we'll explain why. That's why I'm choosing to save a lot of what people have been saying about David. I'm saving that for the end. So, but I will share one of the stories that Isaac, who's Rebecca's husband, Rebecca is David's sister, and he was also very good friends with David. So one time, this was when Rebecca and Isaac were engaged. So Isaac and David shared a moment on the driveway outside, and there they are laying on their backs, looking up at this great big universe around us. And they were searching discussing about how to find your place in the universe, what that means, what that entails. And I thought that was a beautiful way to really begin this class about finding your place in the universe. That's exactly what the topic is. And it's just hearing these stories and how relevant it is. I know that David Avraham is here with us now, and the topic of healing your identity was very close to his heart as I learned over these interviews. So I just wanted to begin with that as a prelude, and then to go into the topic of what it means to heal your identity. So this actually, this material was something that I've been working on for 2 years. And I started with videos, and then I had the videos transcribed, and then I was editing these videos, and I didn't really know how to take this material. It was originally from a portion of Rabbi Ginsburg's book, Body, Mind, and Soul, about the importance of healing your identity. And I was trying to make it something that was relatable to people, and some type of a healing modality of like that it's really relevant to people's lives, that it's really important to heal your identity. It's like something that's really tangible and really important to people's lives. But I didn't really know how to bring it out. And then my wife saw an article that was shared about a book. The name of the book is Cured: Strengthen Your Immune System and Heal Your Life. And it's by a doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Rediger. And in his book, he talks about the importance of healing your identity. So it was very like a cosmic type of thing, where right at the time that I was editing this part from Rabbi Ginsburg, from this material about healing your identity, my wife sends me this article and says, "Oh, maybe this will be something of interest to you." And lo and behold, it was very interesting to me. I bought the book, I went through it, and it was just fascinating. First of all, this doctor, so he's a mainstream respected doctor. He's an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. He's the medical director in McLean Adult Psychiatry in McLean Hospital. And so he's a very well-respected mainstream doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Rediger. But he had this question. What was the question? Is that why is it that some people experience spontaneous remission, spontaneous healing, and others don't? So for 15 years, he studied this one question. He interviewed dozens of people personally, and hundreds of hours on his desk. He probably had stacks and stacks, because this was a labor of love for him. He didn't like have assistants helping him with this. He did this himself. Late hours, weekends, whatever. This was his labor of love. And he was trying to find the answer. Why is it? And through his interviews, he developed originally 3 patterns, what he called these pillars of health. Originally, there was 3 pillars of health. That is to heal your immune system, heal your nutrition, and heal your stress response. So this is very practical, very understandable. I'll say it again in case anyone wants to write this down, but it's in the book. Anyone can purchase that book on Amazon. Number 1, heal your immune system. Number 2, heal your nutrition. And number 3, heal your stress response. And, it's along with that, it's diet, exercise, eat healthy, sleep well, all the standard things that the doctors typically say, exercise. But he was noticing something that was very troubling in terms of like some type of a healing modality to translate and adapt this as something that would be useful to people. There was people that were not taking care of themselves at all, and that experienced spontaneous remission. Their tumors, the cancer was completely gone. And then you had people that were doing everything. They were taking care of their health and exercising and eating well and doing everything. And they didn't, unfortunately, get better. So he was really struggling, like really at an impasse. And so, like in one moment, he realized, like kind of like a eureka moment, after his years of research, after his hundreds of hours, dozens of interviews, and again, he wants to help people. He wants to bring this out as something that's actually relevant to people and helpful to people. And he only dealt with cases that the medical establishment had totally written off. You have no chance, just go and enjoy your life. There's no chance whatsoever of survival, God forbid. And yet these people experienced spontaneous remission. So what was the secret sauce? What was the secret? And so it came to him, and he said, and he realized, and once he realized, it was like, wow. So this is what he calls the 4th and most important pillar for health. And that's what he calls healing your identity. So this is the article that my wife sent me. This is that book. It was about that book. At the very time when I was going over this material from Rabbi Ginsburg's book from 2003, Dr. Rediger's book was published in 2020. Right? So Kabbalah and Torah always precedes.
Personal collaboration studio with Zoom for Home. Scale up to 50,000 people with our video webinar platform. That's a lot. Want to send a quick chat or share a doc with a colleague? We've got you covered there too.
Is someone talking? Oh. Hold on. Admit all. Okay. If everyone could go on mute.
Zoom Learning Center, where you can learn about Zoom's products.
How do you mute?
You can mute all. I don't know if you can hear me. You can mute all, but also whoever is Warner Ruth or Ruth Warner, if you can.
Okay, I just muted all. So technical difficulties. That's okay. Okay, so again, this came to him as a surprise that the 4th and most important pillar for health is healing your identity. And so in his 15 years, he was able to really see this empirically, this is what he observed. But now, according to Torah, we're able to understand, go beyond the surface and really see why it is that healing your identity would lead to actual healing, physical healing. Okay, so that's the prelude, and Now we're going to go into the actual topic of the class. That's first we're going to give an explanation of one of the stories that Dr. Rediger brings. So he talks about this lady, Claire. So Claire was a grandmother, and she was diagnosed with a terminal form of pancreatic cancer, God forbid. And the doctors again said that, I'm sorry, you have no chance. She tried everything, but ultimately they said, just go and enjoy your life. Just live that true life that you always wanted to live. Just enjoy friends and family. And that's what she did. She made every moment count, and there was no time for anything that didn't matter, right? When faced with that type of a dire prognosis. So she made every moment count, and she enjoyed her life, and she spent time with her friends and family, and that's how she was living. 5 years later, now according to the medical establishment, 5 years she had no chance to still be around in 5 years, but she was still there. 5 years later, she goes to the hospital for something unrelated, an unrelated illness. And as part of this unrelated illness, they did a CT of her abdomen. As part of her abdomen, you have the pancreas. And when they saw her pancreas, it was completely clean. The tumor was completely gone. And there's many stories like this that he brings in the book. And it's, what did Claire do differently? She was living the life that she always wanted to live. And finally, she didn't have any excuses not to do it. Finally, she was giving into herself, so to speak, giving into her true self. So it's a really, this time that we're in now of a Seres Tshuva, the 10 days of repentance, as we're getting ready for Yom Kippur. These classes started in Elul, which is the time of personal stock taking. And now, as we are approaching Yom Kippur, that day when we're face to face with God, as we'll explain, it's that moment to really align ourselves of what is our particular purpose in this world? What is that? Why are we here? Right? And not only is it important, but what we're discussing now is that that's the key, the secret to healing. That's what it means to heal your identity. And we're gonna flesh it out more and really explain it further. But where Dr. Rediger observes these things, and it's very interesting, we can explain beyond that and really see what's really going on. Okay, so what does it mean to heal our identity? First on a communal level, and then on an individual level. And we'll talk about the Jewish people first. So on a communal level, it means to be a light into the nations, right? That's one way to view it, is that we all have light. We all are to be teachers, right? To give the light of Torah, to teach that to the nations of the world. And on an individual level, it's to find that light within, right? To find that ability within, that light that we can share to the world, that the world's not going to be the same unless we are sharing or unless we're giving over these teachings. So there's that, right? There's that communal sense of taking our place as a light into the nations.
Hi. Sorry for being late. I apologize profusely. I was trying to get some more people to come over. I called a bunch of people. Hopefully they'll show up.
So you have on the communal level, you have to be a light unto the nations, and then you'll have on the individual level to take our place, to find our light. And how do we find that light? How do we find that spark within? So that part of us that's always pristine and pure, that's what's called the sheyichyeh shebenefesh, the highest level of our soul. It's never tainted from sin, always remains pure and holy. And the same letters as Yechidah, which is, again, this highest level of our soul, is Chida. Chida is riddle, right? So we all have this riddle that we are searching to uncover. So how do we search and find that riddle and take our place as a light into the nations to spread that light to others? what does that mean for the nations of the world? So we started off with the Jewish people. So for the nations of the world, that's to support and to encourage that light, to help it along, to shine throughout the world.
Jonathan, not everybody will understand the word bittul. Can you please explain bittul to people? Thank you.
Good. Me too.
Hold on.
Did I miss much? Did I miss much?
Okay. So I didn't mention the word bittul yet. I mentioned the word chida and yechida. So chida means riddle. We all have this riddle that we're searching to reveal and to uncover. And yechida is the highest level of our soul that remains pristine and pure. I actually did not mention bittul yet. So okay, so to find our true calling and to really uncover our light within and to share that light with others. So we're going to now talk about the story of Joseph. And Joseph is the archetypal example of what it means to find your identity, to heal your identity in the Torah. So Joseph, as many of us know, he was sold. He was thrown into a pit by his brothers, and an Arab caravan came by, took him to Egypt, and eventually he's sold as a slave in the house of Potiphar. Potiphar is one of the ministers of Pharaoh in Egypt. And in short time, Joseph becomes basically the person in charge of the household. Potiphar likes him. He gives him basically the keys to run the household. But there was an issue, and that was Potiphar's wife lusted after Joseph, and this happened for a time. And then there was a time when there was a big idol festival celebrating the Nile River, and Joseph didn't go to these festivals, and Potiphar's wife also knew that Joseph wouldn't go to these festivals, so she stayed back at home. And they were the only two people that remained in the house. And Potiphar's wife tried very strongly to seduce Joseph to the point of grabbing his garment, and Joseph fled away. And Potiphar's wife is left holding this garment of Joseph in her hands. Well, this was very embarrassing for Potiphar's wife, as one can imagine. And when her husband comes home, she blames it on Joseph and said Joseph is the one that came after her and tried to attack her, tried to sexually assault her. And now Potiphar, whether he believed his wife or not, he upheld her honor and threw Joseph in the dungeon, where he remained for 12 years. And the same thing happened in the dungeon, that Joseph is, in short time, wins the favor of the warden and finds favor in the warden's eyes, and basically runs the prison. And later on, he basically is in charge of Egypt. So first of all, Joseph had a cheerful disposition throughout all of this. He was very positive and very just always trusting, very positive, trusting in God. And so ultimately, after 12 years, no one else in Egypt, this is very important, no one else was able to interpret Pharaoh's dream. It was two versions of the same dream, about 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. And Joseph was able to interpret it. And in the merit, or as a result of being able to interpret this dream that no one else in all of Egypt was able to interpret, Pharaoh calls him in something, a very interesting term. That's safnat paneach. It's a very cryptic term, especially the word paneach, that we're only able to translate based on the context, but it basically means the revealer of the hidden. Someone who reveals that which is hidden to everyone else. No one else was able to know how to interpret those dreams, but Joseph was. So it explains in Kabbalah that in the merit of withstanding the test of seduction, that Joseph was able to reveal that from the superconscious, that which is normally dark. So to be a revealer of the concealed, a revealer of the dark from the superconscious in order to make it something that's conscious, something that people are not hear about. It becomes known. So that's one lesson in terms of healing our identity, is we stay holy and also for the sake of finding our riddle and to reveal our light, to become a revealer of that which is normally maybe initially concealed for us. We don't know initially what our riddle is, what our particular purpose, what our place in Torah is. But over time, through trusting, through faith, we're able to bring that out, and we're able to find those particular things that are unique to us in our contribution to the world. So here we're going to have this tandem between two questions, and these are really two important questions. The first is, what is the riddle of our soul, and how do we uncover that riddle, and how do we find that particular light that we're destined to shine to the world? And the second question is, what is our origin story? What is that moment when we first had these dreams and ambitions before all those challenges and obstacles? And Joseph had many of them, many challenges and obstacles, but yet he was able to overcome them and to strengthen and ultimately to find his light and to radiate that light to others. So as a result of aligning ourselves and to finding our purpose and our particular thing, we have to really believe there's some particular thing that we're here for, and no one else can do quite like us. Like I gave a version of this class to a home in Los Angeles, and you had many creative people there, many artists and creative types, and it's a very was very relatable. This idea that we have some type of a contribution, we have some creative input that we can offer to the world, some project that we can undertake, whether it's writing, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's just therapy, whether it's the people that we help. We have people come to us, and we have that ability to really give over. But first we have to know our identity. First we have to know who we are before we're able to really know to really identify with our soul root, and then to give it over. Okay, so I'll just quote a little bit from Body, Mind, and Soul. So the feelings of disconnection and alienation derive from mistaken identity, the inability to identify who in truth is family and related and who is not. So to heal our identity on a communal sense is also to take our place as a member of the Jewish people or the nations of the world, to take our place in a communal sense of where we belong. And that's also like our origin. Where do we come from? Where are we going? I had one of the responses to the workshop, which we're going to get to in a little bit, in California, was that he was very proud of his heritage, of his Jewish heritage, where the country that he came from, the traditions that they had. And it's very, very helpful and important, not only, let's say, as a member of the Jewish people, but also to know our history and to know where we're coming from. So with that, I'm going to go into a story that I thoroughly researched the story. I called the rabbi up directly to confirm the details. And it's a very powerful story about healing your identity and what it means to really find your place. And so I'll just go into the story. So there was once a young man who was close with Chabad of Buffalo, at the time, Rabbi Garari was there, senior. And this man was in the New York area, in Manhattan. And he calls up Rabbi Garari one day. And he says, Rabbi, prove to me that there's a God. Or the basic implication that Rabbi Garari read from it was, or I'm going to kill myself, God forbid. But that was, this man, unfortunately, was into drugs and all these things. And basically, that was his feeling, is that he needed to have to provide an answer for this man. So what do? You're on the receiving end of this call, and it's you need to give an answer. So this was many years ago. This actually was in 1973. So he said, go to my brother-in-law, and he'll get you to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Ask your question to the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Wow.
So that's what he did. Now, at those times, it was already too late to get private audiences immediately. And Rabbi Benjamin Klein, one of the Rebbe's secretaries, said, I'm sorry, but maybe a few months from now, there's really nothing I can do in terms of scheduling a private audience. And this man basically said, I'm not willing to wait that long. So what do? So Rabbi Garari's brother-in-law said, don't tell anyone, but the Rebbe is about to come back from the Ohel. He's about to daven the afternoon service, to pray the afternoon service. The Ohel was the resting place of the Rebbe's father-in-law. The Rebbe would go often to pray. So he said, just wait out by the curb. The Rebbe is going to be coming soon, and the Rebbe's car is going to be coming soon. And ask your question then. Okay, so that's what this man does. The Rebbe comes, and when you're in front of the Rebbe, he no longer had this philosophical question of, prove to me that there's a God. His only question was, where is God? That's all that remained. You're standing in front of such a holy person.
That's a good one.
Where is God? Okay. So the Rebbe lifted up his hands and went like this. God is everywhere, right? Like a circle. Rebbe made a circle with his hands. So this is, I'm telling the version that Rabbi Garari said to me. Again, this was printed in a book, and I confirmed it with Rabbi Garari directly. When this person, he also tells the story, but it's a little bit different, but almost identical. But I'll tell you Rabbi Garari's version. So he asked, no, seriously, Rebbe, where is God? Right? So the Rebbe, like the Rebbe wasn't serious the first time. Like, you need to really say to the Rebbe to be serious. So the Rebbe smiled.
Well, we all know he's everywhere. I mean,
so if you're asking seriously, so the Rebbe pointed to his heart and said, God is within you. And as Rabbi Garari told me the story, it's like you can imagine to have that infusion of this like infinite light just penetrate you all of a sudden. And Rabbi Garari's version is that immediately he broke down and started crying. His version is that it took some time in order for that process to fully take hold and fully change his life, but he did ultimately change his life and become observant.
Huh.
And so what happened here?
I heard that story last night, by the way. I was listening to stories from people that told stories about the Rebbe. Yeah. And that was one of the stories they told.
Amazing. Okay.
And the end of it was, he did ask him several times, about where's God. And he said everywhere. And he asked him again, and the last one was the heart. Yeah. Yeah, I really researched the story. So it's a good story. I called the rabbi directly. So what does that mean? Is that basically he was looking for a reason for, like, why am I here? Like, do I belong to anything? Do I have a reason? Do I have a purpose? And so to know that he was part of the Jewish people, to know that everyone that God creates, no matter Jew or non-Jew, by the fact that you're here means you have a purpose for being here. And
once he realized that, that answered every question they could possibly have, because he's part of the Jewish people. He has a family. He belongs somewhere, right? So once they asked, there was this woman that asked the Rebbe, how is it that you can stand 6-7 hours in line giving out dollars on Sunday and not get tired? And right, what did the Rebbe say? Is when you're counting diamonds, you don't get tired. So in relation to our topic, if you have this ability and you see someone's diamond that they lost on the street, presumably a diamond belongs to somebody, but maybe it's covered over, maybe it has some soot on it, and it looks like coal or something. So you have to polish it and then you hand it back to the person. So, but first we have to identify those specific things that are placed in Torah to heal our identity, and then we're able to isolate those, find those diamonds and pick them up and give them back to people. Okay. There was also a reporter, and she had experience interviewing all these celebrities, but when she came to the Rebbe, she was completely baffled. Everyone else loved talking about their accomplishments and their lives and all their pursuits and everything. The Rebbe only was interested in her and what are her ambitions and what's she doing, and the Rebbe wouldn't talk about himself. So that's also helpful in order that we have this light. And we're going to talk about how to find that riddle within, and then to give it over and to share and be there for others. So that totally affects people when you really, they can really tell that you're there for them and you really care about them. But not only that, but they're coming to us because of our specific soul wound, because we have something to offer, because they see the potential to be healed from it. And by our motivation to help them, so we ourselves are healed, right? Okay, so we discussed, according to this book by Dr. Rediger, that healing your identity is, right? He calls it the most important pillar, the fourth and most important pillar for health. So in the chapter following healing your identity, the next chapter is you are not your illness. So what does that mean? You are not your illness. Okay. So many of us recognize this.
Oh yeah.
What do you say?
Yeah.
What do you say?
A young woman and an old woman.
You see both? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I've seen that before.
My psychologist.
Yeah, I've seen that and others similar to that.
okay. So he brings this as an example. This would have remained obscure. It was originally from some unknown artist in 1888. Let me just see if there's anyone else to admit. Okay, everyone's good. There was some unknown artist in 1888, and it was like an art on some novelty card, some postcard. And then in 1930, there was a psychologist by the name of Edwin Boring. And Edwin Boring was studying perception, and he was interested in seeing when people start off seeing one person, how easy is it for them to shift to the other and then back and forth. And he calls this the figure ground shift. Right? Originally, something seemed to be in the figure, then you put it into the background, right? And so Dr. Rediger said this is exactly what he observed. It's not only that a person heals their identity and lives their true lives, but they experience a figure ground shift where they totally transform, and they're not living defined by their prognosis. They're living their true lives. And, in the back burner, okay, it is what it is, but they're living their life. And again, they did everything medically possible. The doctor said, just enjoy their lives. And that's what they're doing. And so they experience this figure ground shift where they're not defining themselves any longer by their illness, by their prognosis.
Yonatan, I'm sorry to interrupt. I had several messages. I just noticed people were trying to get in and they weren't admitted.
I'll take a look and see.
But maybe, why don't you make me co-host or something so I could admit people? because you didn't see when people come on.
Okay, Adam, if you can look and just, okay, but I have someone who's going to be looking periodically. I just let someone in.
So, oh, okay, where do I do that?
It's just on the top. It says admit.
Oh, I see. Okay,
Okay.
got it.
All right. Okay, so everyone that experienced, went through this healing, went through this transformation as well. Okay. Okay, so we have here, these classes started in Elul, and the zodiac, which there is a Jewish zodiac, which is, there is some correspondence to the zodiac of the world. So the mazel of Elul is the Basula, the Virgin, right? So it's similar. It is similar to Virgo. I don't know if the dates match up, but Elul is, according to Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, which is the first book of Kabbalah. The mazel, the translated the zodiac of Elul is the Basula, is the Virgin. So that's, as we explained, that's finding that innocence and that purity within, which means to find one's origin story, right? To find before all the trauma in life, before all the challenges and obstacles, and Joseph had many of them, right? To find those dreams and to uncover those dreams before life happened, before we had all these things that happened in life. So these classes began in Elul, but now we're in Tishrei. So what is the mazel of Tishrei? The mazel of Tishrei is the Moznaim, the scales. Is the Moznaim, the scales. So here our actions are judged, are weighed, and we're face to face with God. We're in a face-to-face relationship with God. So we're going right now, and we're in the middle of this figure ground shift, right? And what is the foreground? That's placing God before me always. Shavisi Hashem l'negdi samed. I place God before me always. That's the inner lesson for what it means to go through a figure ground shift. Is that to live my truest life means I'm trying to align myself and figure out my purpose for being here. Those things that I don't feel like the world would be the same without that. Those things, that light, that specific light that we can shine to the world. And in the workshop, we're going to flesh this out some more. And this is just introductory. So how do we emerge into our true selves? So we go from this transition from Elul to Tishrei, right? First, we have to open up that sense of wonder again, and to remember those dreams that we had as a child or adolescent, or like the story that we started in the beginning. We look up to the sky in this great big universe, and where's our place in this great big universe, right? So that's like Elul we're taking a stock taking of trying. It's the 13 attributes of mercy, of God's mercy, are revealed in Elul. And we're really doing that soul searching of that innocence within. And the Basula doesn't mean necessarily a physical state to be a virgin. It says that Rebecca, throughout her life, after her kids and throughout her life, she tapped in to that inner state of purity, that inner Basula, the inner state of just being pristine and pure. And as we mentioned, it also relates to the highest level of our soul. It's always pristine and pure. So that's Elul. And then we go through this figure ground shift to Tishrei. And we're face to face with God, especially Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, especially at the height of the service, the Elah prayer, where the high priest would go in to the Holy of Holies. And at that time, we're standing before God, and we're going towards Him in terms of teshuvah, returning to God with love, but also placing God before us and going through this transformative process of healing our identity and emerging into our true selves. And throughout all the examples of Dr. Rediger's book, it was all people that were just giving over to their true selves, giving over to their true lives. So after the first stage of this is, we said to experience wonder, but it's also to believe in oneself. I had a person call me after one of the classes, and he said that he just likes playing piano. He doesn't know the notes. He just enjoys it. So there was this one restaurant, kosher restaurant. He was playing the piano, and the owner liked it and was going to have him to, just for ambiance, no specific songs, just to play the piano. But his friend, who knew all the notes, knew exactly how to play the piano, said, "You don't know how to play the piano. What are you fooling yourself?" And the first step, if we're going to really reveal our true identity, is to really be vulnerable and trust that we can reveal that to others and to share that with the world, right? Not to listen to these voices, but also to trust in ourselves. Okay.
So he continued playing the piano.
I don't know. I just spoke to him a few weeks ago. I hope so. So from all the interviews, and we're going to take a little prelude. I usually jump into the workshop section, but I mentioned that I would go back and talk about all the interviews that what people were sharing about Dovid. And I'm telling you, it was so surreal, because I've been working on this for 2 years. I gave the class, versions of this class already 3 times already. Most of this material was the same, except that, I added about Tishrei and some aspects of it. And all that people were saying were so related to this topic, about how he just connected with people and just the world, seeing everything, connecting everything to God. And he brought people together, and especially people said in the last year of his life, he really found peace with God, but he really saw the importance of living that true life, living that truest life. And it was just so, it's nice to say these things. It's nice to give a class and even tell stories, these are real stories. But to hear it firsthand these past few days from people, someone who lived this, who lived what I'm talking about now, it was so surreal. And before this class, I didn't know about I didn't know how to relate this in terms of a program. Like, people need tools. People need programs for if you want to heal your identity, follow these steps, some type of a system. And I wasn't thinking in those terms. I was just thinking that this is hopefully inspiring, hopefully people like it. But after listening to these people, friends and family, I realized what the system is. So some years ago in California, Rabbi Ginsburg gave a class on the Partsuf of Yesod. Okay, what does that mean? The Partsuf of Yesod. So Partsuf means a Kabbalistic system, right? Like the book that I did together with Rabbi Ginsburg on motivation. I sat together in his dining room in Crayk in Israel, and we edited it together. And it's called Frames of Mind. You can find it on Amazon. Frames of Mind. Just search Rabbi Ginsburg Frames of Mind. So that book is a whole Partsuf, the whole Kabbalistic array of everything, all the different things Kabbalah has to say about motivation in terms of an introduction. It's an introduction into all the different approaches that Kabbalah has to motivation, at least from that perspective that we put together in that book. And a person that's learning it is able to see what relates to them, but it's the whole system is being presented. Well, from the responses, I realized that this class that Rabbi Ginsburg gave on Yesod, on the whole array of Yesod, also relates to healing your identity. And it actually says that in terms of withstanding the test of temptation of relating to Joseph. Joseph is the archetypal figure of what the Sphira, this divine channel, this divine influx of foundation of Yesod. It's, again, if you know the terms, you know the terms. If you don't know the terms, it's not so important. Basically, the whole system that we're now presenting relates to Joseph, which is the whole topic of this class, which is everything that people were saying about David Avraham is fit into this class from Rabbi Ginsburg about Joseph. What I didn't know, I listened to that class, it's one of my favorite classes. What I didn't know is that was a class about healing your identity, is that could be seen as a class about healing your identity. I didn't realize that.
When you say, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but it's important because
Yeah.
when you say healing one's identity, doesn't one need to find one's identity in order to heal one's identity?
Right. So that's the workshop portion, is to find our
Right.
to find our place in Torah.
Studies have been done, psychological studies,
Right.
whatever, that on questions when you ask who are you, how you identify yourself.
Right.
Most people identify themselves as far as, as far as their work. I'm a doctor,
Right.
I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm
Right.
a mother, I'm a father,
Right.
all these other things that they relate to as far as who they are.
Right.
But it's not
Superficial.
really.
Right. So it's to connect
they
it
are.
with, to connect. Right. We're going to talk about it, but it's to connect one's passions, drives, talents with their place in Torah.
Good.
That's actually the topic of last night's Living Torah also.
Good.
If that was that the Rebbe was saying also last night.
But can I ask you another question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're not allowed to.
No, but maybe afterwards in the end, it's better to ask questions. I don't know. Whatever you.
Yeah.
decide.
Maybe we'll go into the system and then we'll do the workshop and then we'll have questions. But so I just printed this at FedEx. Hot off the press.
Hot off the press.
So for people online, I didn't have time to share it, but I will send it to Bracha and or anyone who wants to email me to ysgordon@gmail.com or to message Bracha and I'll send you the PDF. I just didn't have time. So this is the program for returning to God and healing your identity.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But maybe I want to ask now.
Sure.
I want to wait until the end because I'm kind of very curious about this. I don't understand why we have to heal our identity, because I think I understand we have to become aware of our identity, but our identity is the essence of the soul. It's already perfect. It's part of God Himself, and we don't have to heal part of God that is the most essential part of ourselves. So I understand we have to become aware of it, and most people are not aware of it. They identify with superficial aspects of themselves, like I am a CEO, I'm the president, and these kinds of superficial things. But so I don't understand why we have to heal our identity. We have to become aware of our identity.
Right. To heal it is to uncover it, to find it.
Oh, that's what. Okay.
It's related to for a Jew. It's related to the mitzvah of Shabbos Aveda, returning a lost object. So that's why I related it to the finding a diamond in the street, polishing it, and returning it to a person. It's right. We don't necessarily know where it is, but it's someone else maybe can help to pick it up for us, polish it, and return it back to us. Okay. So we have here a program, and this is again. It's I just have time to talk about the first one. I'm going to bring people's quotes, the friends and family that shared about David. The whole array of what people were saying, I put it together according to this whole system. So maybe I'll just mention that quickly, but I'm gonna just focus a little bit on what I've been discussing in terms of the power to experience wonder, hafla'a. This relates to the superconscious, as we've been talking about, which is Keter or crown in Kabbalah. And this the power to reveal again from that which is normally dark to reveal it, to become a revealer of the hidden. As we talked about, Joseph was the consummate revealer of the hidden. So I'll just this is from the class, and I'll just to read a little bit from here. So we should meditate on wonder, to stand and meditate on the wonders of God, and to contemplate basically our all of reality, and to find our place in reality, right? I'm not going to read everything inside, but there's this again very much relates to Dovid, both to the story in the beginning about finding our place in the universe, and also someone said that he loved to contemplate big things about the universe. So having that sense of wonder, to experience wonder. So that's the first step of feeling your identity. First, you have to have a sense of wonder. Okay, and then I'm going to just go into the other ones. So the next is the power of perception. And I'm just going to bring people's quotes of how.
Should I admit or?
Yeah, admit. Okay. So I'm just now here are quotes that relate to the system about David. What we learn from him is that we need to get our egos out of the way, be the truest version of ourselves, and just do it. And he also made a point to make eye contact with people. So that relates to perception, to the second stage of healing your identity. The third stage, the power of achievement. He was a really deep thinker, was the most joyous person I ever met, exhibited happiness and joy. And he also lived on a very deeper level of teshuvah. So that relates to achievement. Achievement, it means to think deeply and to get a sense of intellectual satisfaction from the result of one's meditations.
First is wonder.
Right.
You kind of glossed over the second.
It's perception.
Is perception.
Right. To put our egos aside, or to really see people.
Good.
And the third is achievement, which comes through meditation. The result of one's meditation is a joyful experience. And that's, David had fun with Torah. He loved Torah, and he really saw Torah, experienced Torah deeply, and then he viewed it as a source of fun. That's relates to the power of achievement. The power of recognition, that he really saw people on a really deep level. He noticed everybody in a room, and he saw what connects us all and made everyone feel incredible. So that's a good example. These are all, again, this was a class by Rabbi Ginsburg, but what I was able to understand from these interviews is that class by Rabbi Ginsburg relates to healing your identity. I didn't know that before. And these are just good, helpful ways of how David lived that class, basically, of how he lived healing your identity.
Does healing one's identity also go along with healing one's, because you had mentioned earlier, someone was very ill.
Right.
And does this have, within Judaism, do we believe that a person can physically be healed from different various ailments?
So, right, I'm glad you asked that question, because I usually mention that. So we have to tell God that we're here for something very specific that no one else can do, and we have to be here in order to do that. Mm-hmm. And that's, again, putting our purpose in the foregrounds. We're not saying heal us because of our illness. We're saying heal us because of all the things I need to do.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Right. So that's, thank you for asking. I usually try to mention that early on, but that's really, really important. Is that we're here for, how do we know that? Because he created us, right? We're here for something very specific. And so we're on the path to finding that, to finding our particular purpose and reason that we need to be here. Okay. All right. Then the next two levels are the power of attraction and repulsion. And so people were drawn to Dovid. People just like to be around him, and so that's just he had that draw. But he was also had a private side to him. So that's at that level. That's how he exhibited that. He was a living example of healing your identity at that level. Next is the power of devotion. He made people feel that they mattered, had a purpose, connected with people in a very deep and sincere way. So he had the biggest heart. So the inner experience of
Is that what you're reading here in the notes, or?
No, I'm just reading from here.
Yeah.
So it's to be truly devoted to people, right? To be truly the inner experience at that level also in Kabbalah is to welcoming, is to really feel for people, really empathize with people. Okay.
So this is emphasizing people here, devotion.
So that's to be devoted to people, right? To not give up, but to be, right, to making people feel that they really matter. The next level is the power to invigorate, and he would always want to lift people up. He noticed people, but he also wanted to lift people up, and also believed that we could change in an instant. And that's also related to the power to invigorate. The next level is the power to persevere. That he was always motivated. He came to realize that he always needed to feel connected to God. So that just to be persevering, right? Constantly putting forth that effort, and to bring it down, to bring it down into practice. And the next level, which is the power to connect, and this whole system is about connecting with the world. And that's what, first of all, people said about Dovid is that he connected with the world, he brought people together. So the power to connect, he came to realize that he always needed to feel connected to God, and and to live his truest life. So this was either with music or surfing, whatever his interests were. He always felt the need. He also rapped, and he had so many interests, but he always was trying to connect these to God. And the power of expression. He had a joyful living, always had a smile. He liked to make people laugh, and everyone loved him. And he just had a remarkable impact on others. So that's the final level. So this is not theoretical. This is how he lived his life. Especially people said, like, he really found himself in his last year. And he was taken from us too early. He was 29.
Wow.
And he passed away 6 years ago on Yom Kippur. So that's it's a lesson for all of us to really view these teachings as relevant. So now we're going to go into the workshop portion. Anyone have questions? Okay. So everyone that's here or at home, if you write these down. So the first question is, what are our passions, our drives? What do we feel are talents and motivations? What things really are we passionate about? What things touch us, right? Drive, whatever things that drive us. That's the first question. Give a little time and see if anyone needs to be admitted. No? Okay, I think we're good. Okay, the next question is, what is your origin story? What is that time when you first had these dreams and ambitions, right? As we talked about before, all these challenges and obstacles happened in our lives, or just when we first had these dreams and ambitions, those things that we're passionate about. If you can remember, like, a story, something that comes to mind. either from our childhood or whatever just comes to mind.
Can you give us an example of just generically what an origin story would be?
Sure. So, I mean, there was many examples of what people shared. One person said that he always was searching for truth, and from a very young age, and just all of his experiences of searching and all the journey that he went on to find truth. It was a long and winding road, but all of the lessons that he learned from that, for instance, there was, let's see, other origin stories. There was a rabbi who said that, he wants to help people, right? So his first, really, what he considers the turning point in his life was when he had fled Iran, and he had met the Rebbe when he was a 13-year-old boy.
Oh, wow.
Right. So for him, that was an origin story for him.
Okay. So essentially, it's something that is innately part of your very being, your essence.
Right. And it's that point where it was like before maybe we lost sight of our dreams and ambitions. Right.
In some cases, it may be difficult for someone to recall.
Yeah.
After so many years of so much.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word.
Yeah.
Mishigas, how's that for a word?
Yeah.
That we go through as we get older.
Yeah.
But your origin story would be something that at one point you knew it to be true. You knew it to be real.
Right.
Without all the social and all the it's the real deal.
Yep.
And then we go off and we make things much more complicated for ourselves.
All right. And then the third.
So can I just try to see if I understood you correctly?
Sure.
So the origin story is when you first time you became aware what is really your most important thing you want to do in life.
Right.
And then a lot of us we kind of lose track over the years, and then later we find it back.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Now the third one, in the past, I just had those two questions, as the workshop, and then we shared it and worked on how does that relate to our experience of learning Torah and our place in Torah. But I heard something again about Dovid that I thought was a really good idea. So you would say to pause and right now to say 3 things that you're grateful for. I thought that was a good thing to do.
It's a good thing to do.
It's a good thing to do every day, but here we're doing it now.
It is a good thing to do every day.
3 things that we're grateful for.
Do it in the morning.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
For example, Miriam Adahan, she says, like the spirit of veggies, like write down what we are grateful for and our victories of the past day. Were we able to overcome our animal soul, our Yitzhahara? That's very motivating, very psychologically healing.
Yep.
She always emphasizes.
Okay, we'll give a little bit for people to, hopefully people online are also participating.
You've heard a number of people tell you what the 3 things that they're grateful for?
That's brand new.
Okay, so that's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
There's probably a common denominator of sorts that certain people are grateful for. I'm sure it's different in every case, but there's certain things.
Yeah, that's more personal. The first 2 are really for sharing, Grateful is more of a personal.
I mean, like, just off the top of my head, grateful for one's health. That would
Right.
be, that would probably be one of the top.
Right.
And family, so there's a number of things that a lot of people would probably say that they're grateful for.
Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong answers.
Yeah, no right or wrong answers. And we'll give a few more seconds, and then we'll.
So the first you want us to expect us to share here?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I have actually something funny to say.
Okay.
Good. We need some.
I don't know.
Humor. No, humor is always good.
A little funny, not extreme funny.
All right.
Okay. All right, Adam, you want to share?
Okay, so my story of origin. So when
First,
I was
you
a
start off with
teenager.
your passions, your interests.
Yeah. So that's how something interesting comes to my mind. When I was a teenager, I already knew what is the most interesting to me is medicine and spirituality.
Huh.
But I was I was misled to believe my Yitzhar. My Yitzhar told me, but for sure not Judaism, and for sure not Chinese medicine. And then 18 years later, turned out to be that's what I ended up. That's where I landed in the end. Judaism. It took me 18 years to find Judaism. It took me also many years to come to the type of medicine that I'm doing now. So my Yitzhar told me exactly not where I was landing eventually.
Yeah.
I thought, Judaism, that's boring. I mean, that's tedious. I'm not like all other spirituality is much more exciting. Not Judaism is boring. And Chinese medicine is for the Chinese. I'm not Chinese. Why should I do Chinese medicine? So that was my
Jewish
What?
Chicken soup. That's what we're looking for.
And your origin story.
What?
Your origin story.
That's my. I don't know if that's the essential origin story. But
So I would say just in terms of finding, right, how do we ground that in terms?
Yeah.
So first we have to believe in belief. We have to believe in the power of belief, and that faith is an actual instrument for healing. One of the stories that I bring in previous classes is from my mentor, Rabbi Moshe Ganuth, of how he found Rabbi Ginsburg. Is that when he was going through this ailment that other people were healing from, and he was getting worse and worse. It's very, very serious. Mm-hmm. And he went to this big tzaddik in Jerusalem, Rabbi Usher Freund. Very big tzaddik.
Freund?
Had he exhausted all the medical doctors and he exhausted
all the medical things.
So now he's down to
it's said of Rav Usher that once a person I don't know the story exactly, so I won't say.
Yeah,
but he was a very people went to him all the time for healing and for life advice, and it was just like very transformative. More than once, Moshe said that people would come to him seeking a certain amount of money for tzedakah, and someone would walk in and just put on his table a check for that amount.
Interesting.
Just like this is the type of person this was. So Usher Freund, this is what he said to Moshe. He said that the reason you're not getting better is because you don't believe that you're going to get better. You don't believe. If you believe it, right? If you really believe it, now we say we do lip service, right? But if you really believe that faith is an instrument, a tool for healing, then it is. It's called machshava moelet, that our thoughts create reality, or in the language of the law of attraction, which is it's a very problematic. Law of attraction is very problematic, but the one word they use is not so bad. It's called manifest, right? Not so bad.
Not so bad.
So you create your reality, right? Because you become a partner with God in creation. You become you're acknowledging. What did the Baruch Rebbe said in his famous talk on the 28th of Nisan? He said he's done everything he could to bring the redemption, and he says that you say ad masai, you say until when? How much longer is it going to be? But you're just doing lip service. You don't really believe it. What does that mean, not to believe it? We're not connecting our prayers, our faith, with actually believing that that's actually can happen in reality, that's having an actual effect on reality. So when you said about your interest in these two things, spirituality and medicine, the reason why a person is interested in those things is because we believe in faith. That faith actually can be a tool for healing. Not that faith is something that's in the clouds, right? And then if you really want an answer, though, you go to the doctors. As we see, there's an impasse. There's a certain point where all human wisdom reaches its point where it doesn't have an answer at a certain point, right? Whether it's medicine or anything else,
Right.
And the person needs an answer, and they have to tap into a higher source. So that would be, that would be just something I would say in terms of that, just learning more about what Torah, especially about Hasidus, has to say about the real power of faith, right? And how it's actual, really, really relevant to our lives, not just like up in the air.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Because this is appropriate, I think. Adam mentioned this to me. A few other people had mentioned this to me. And when my mother passed away, and I left Hollywood to come back here, I asked the rabbi, can you give me something to read to just help me get through this difficult period of time? And he gave me a book of Psalms, which I had never read before, and I read it. And he knew, not me, he knew that this was good for me to heal.
Yeah.
I had no idea, but he knew very well that this was a very good thing to give me. Adam also had mentioned it, and there was a specific rabbi that offers it's from Yitzhak. From Yitzhak. Tell him, because I don't know what it is.
I mean, I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
The 10 Psalms of Rabbi Nachman. That was supposed to be a very special remedy, spiritual remedy.
Yeah.
And I do say that almost every day.
Oh,
I do. Yitzhak gave me the book that had all of them in there in English. But is that where we're heading, kind of by saying things and believing them and believing that God has all power?
So all of what you just said relates to the last stage of what we're talking about, the power of expression or speech.
Okay.
And that's very much in line with the Breslov approach, is that, first of all, King David is the archetypal figure of this level, this last level, called Malchut, kingship. And Rabbi Nachman was very focused tremendously on purifying one's speech. And if you purify to the extent that you have to be very careful of what you put into your mouth.
Oh, absolutely.
Because what you put in, then it affects, because when you speak, it's affected by what you put into your mouth.
He was yelling at me the other day because I was saying some things that were kind of on the negative side. And Adam is good about that. He said, don't talk like that. Remember?
Yeah.
So the Tikkun Klali, right? It's what is it? Is that it's training a person to really believe that their words count and their prayers count.
Good.
And it's with the help of Rabbi Nachman and obviously connected to Hashem. Okay. John,
It's my quiet time. I love the quiet time. I also love the social.
We should turn our phones.
What's that?
Social activities.
Social activities in your quiet time. Okay.
My origins, I go back to my nana, where she had ran a farm. She used to give out to the people in Philadelphia, ran a farm in South Jersey. Just putting food up for people in Philadelphia. And he was off the synagogue.
Okay.
I'm still learning and trying to see my Jewish roots.
Right. So you said quiet time, and what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Social community activities.
Social community activities. So, just some things that come to mind. First of all, it's very nice about your Nana taking you to synagogue. It's obviously connecting to our roots. Is very fundamentally very thematic and very, very important to all of what we're discussing. But the secret in Kabbalah of quiet, it's called the Secret of Khashma, which is knowing when to be silent and knowing when to speak. But before speaking, there's always that stage of silence before speech. It's according to a 3-stage process, which I won't go into so technically right now, but that there's this power, this ability to really think about things in a very deep way before we speak out to the world, and it should be that makes it that our words are really powerful and really really meaningful to us and to others. It's actually a lesson of a good counselor is someone who you can sense that they're silent before they speak, someone who can give good advice to people, someone who can be there for others and provide just solid life advice. So.
Reminds me of Eckhart Tolle in the audience when he's being asked deep questions, especially deep questions. He's like silence for minutes. You don't hear a word for minutes and say, what's going on? And then he starts talking, and what he says has unique depth. I've never seen anybody taking so much time to be silent before actually talking. Everybody's just, you ask a question, and the person blurts out the answer without taking even a few seconds to deeply think about it.
Okay, so we're talking about being a spiritual counselor, being someone who can give good and solid advice, and there's a lot of good book on that from Rabbi Ginsburg is Transforming Darkness into Light.
I read some of it.
Yeah, that's on psychology, Kabbalah and psychology. So it's a good book to learn about that.
So what is Khashma? What is
Khashma? It's Khashma is both to be silent and to speak.
So what does Khash?
Khash is silent.
Khash is silent?
Yeah.
And Mal means?
It's actually, there's two Mals. There's the separation stage, and then there's the Mal is the Mila to speak. So it's the 3 stages. Okay, is there anyone, I don't know if online, if people can...
you mean to admit?
Yeah, or to speak, to unmute.
So I don't know. I don't see it.
Okay. All right. I think with that, people can send in their workshop answers, and be happy to respond to their answers. Also, I'll send you the program that again was inspired by Dovid Avraham ben Baruch Shelah sheyichyeh, and his neshama should have an aliyah. And again, it was remarkable that I was trying to see how to relate what people were discussing in my interviews with friends and family, and it pretty much all related to this system about healing your identity. So this was very special.
So how do you heal your identity?
So how do we heal our identity? Is to isolate those particular things that we feel the world won't be the same without. So we have to find our letter in Torah, our place in Torah, those topics in Torah that deeply touch us, and to relate it. And that's so Dovid, he had all these interests.
Okay.
And he was always just able to relate it. Once he lost a bet, and to learn Tanya for a month. And it was during a portion of Tanya where it was very difficult to find a practical thing in avoda of divine service. But he always came up with something.
Interesting.
He was always to be able to relate, and no matter what his interests were, he was always able to delve deeply in Torah and to connect it. And it's that, but also to feel like we're making the world a better place by our contributions, by sharing our contributions.
Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and everyone he touched was so. You see, he left such an impression on people.
Which David are you talking about?
So this is David Crayk. This is the family name Crayk, originally from San Diego.
So that's a friend of yours, or what's the
This is his mother called to reached out to sponsor the class.
Thank you, Rabbi, very much for giving the class in the memory of Dovid, Avraham. His neshama should have an aliyah. And thank you all for listening and being here.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
Amen. We should Marcus Imatova. Should have a good and sweet New Year.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.